My name is Colleen, and that Thanksgiving destroyed me. I walked into my parents' house in Kansas City, smiling like a fool. I had just gotten engaged and landed my first book deal. For once, I thought they'd be proud. But pride doesn't exist in my family. Mom's voice cut through the clatter of dinner plates. "You're the most useless child in this family." The fork froze in my hand. My sister smirked. "No one expects anything from you, Colleen." Laughter died. Eyes turned. All the warmth vanished, replaced by the weight of silence. My chest burned, but this time I didn't stay quiet. I looked straight at them and said the words that changed everything. Have you ever been humiliated by your own family? Tell me in the comments. Because what I said next made the whole room stop breathing. That moment at dinner wasn't new. It was just the loudest echo of a lifetime. Growing up in Kansas City, I was always the shadow. The middle child. The forgettable one. My brother Ryan was the genius, top of his class. My sister Hannah, the golden girl with perfect grades and perfect hair. And me? I was the quiet dreamer with ink-stained fingers. Writing stories no one cared to read. When I won a 5th grade writing contest, I ran home beaming. Mom glanced at the certificate. "That's nice, honey," then turned to brag about Ryan's science trophy. Dad didn't even look up from his newspaper. That moment stayed with me like a bruise that never faded. By high school, my stories became my escape. I stayed up past midnight, whispering plots into the dark. But Mom called writing a hobby, not a career. Dad compared me to Hannah's real job dreams. "Why can't you be practical, Colleen?" he said once. Those words carved scars I still carry. Even when I tried to help, it was never enough. When Grandpa got sick, I drove him to chemo every week. My brother was too busy, my sister too tired. Mom just said, "That's what families do." No thank you. I planned birthdays, reunions, everything. They'd smile, take the credit, and move on. I remember one night, Hannah's CPA exam celebration. I'd quizzed her for weeks, skipping my own deadlines. When she passed, Mom threw a dinner. They toasted to her brilliance. No one even mentioned me. I sat there smiling, pretending it didn't hurt. But it did. It always did. Every praise they gave my siblings was another reminder I was never enough. No matter how much I gave, I was invisible. Still, I kept showing up, believing love could be earned. Believing one day they'd finally see me. But the more I tried to belong, the smaller I became. By my 20s, I'd stopped expecting applause. Silence became the language of my family. Still, I kept writing, quietly, stubbornly, like breathing. I worked small freelance jobs, editing blogs, ghostwriting for others. At night, I poured myself into my own stories. Dreams on paper, fragile but alive. Mom called it scribbling. Dad asked when I'd get a real job. Hannah laughed, saying her finance career was actually useful. Each word chipped away at me, but I stayed calm. Because deep down, I knew my voice mattered, even if they refused to hear it. When Grandpa got weaker, I became his shadow again. Driving him to chemo, cooking soup, sitting beside him in silence. He'd tell me stories from his days teaching history. "Never let small minds dim your light," he'd say. He was the only one who saw me. The only one who said my name with pride. But when I mentioned the long drives and sleepless nights, Mom just said, "That's your duty, Colleen. No thanks, no warmth, just expectation." That's when something shifted inside me. I realized I could give endlessly, and they'd still act like I'd done nothing. So I started saving, tiny paychecks, week after week. I wanted independence, a life not built around their approval. Every word I wrote was a quiet rebellion. Every invoice, a brick in the wall between us. Then came my first small win. A short story published in an online magazine. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The editor called it honest and haunting. When I showed Mom, she smiled tightly. "How much did they pay you?" $50, I said, still proud. She laughed. That won't pay rent, sweetheart. Dad added, your sister made that in 10 minutes. I smiled back, pretending it didn't sting. But that night, I cried into my pillow. Not because of their words, but because I'd finally realized they'd never change. Still, I kept writing. Quietly, consistently. And for the first time, I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for me. For the little girl who never got a well done. For the woman I wanted to become. One night, as I typed under the soft glow of my lamp, I looked at my stack of drafts and smiled. No applause, no validation. Just peace. If you've ever felt unseen, you're not alone. Sometimes silence is where strength begins. They didn't see it yet, but I was slowly becoming unstoppable. That Thanksgiving night, I thought maybe things had changed. Maybe they'd finally see me. I walked up the familiar driveway, clutching 2 gifts, a hand-stitched table runner and a scrapbook of family memories. Each page took hours. Each stitch, a piece of my heart. Mom opened the door. You're late again, she said flatly, turning away before I could answer. Inside, Hannah lounged on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smirked. Nice to see you finally made it, Colleen. Her tone was sugar wrapped around poison. I placed the gifts on the table, forcing a smile. I made these for everyone. Mom raised an eyebrow. That's quaint. Did you get it at a thrift store? Hannah laughed. Cute, but not really our vibe. My throat tightened, but I stayed quiet. Then my brother walked in, arms full of expensive boxes. A designer scarf for Mom. A sleek coffee machine for Dad. Instant praise. Mom hugged him tightly. You always know what we love. I watched as their smiles bloomed for him, while my handmade gifts sat untouched. I tried to lighten the mood. I made a scrapbook, I said, opening it carefully. Photos from our childhood vacations, birthdays, all the moments I'd kept alive. Mom barely glanced at it. That's sweet, but we don't need clutter, dear. Hannah rolled her eyes. No one's got time for that. Laughter. Conversations about promotions and projects filled the room. No one looked at me. Not once. When dinner began, I told myself this was it. The moment I'd finally be heard. I waited until the noise settled. I have something to share, I said, smiling nervously. Mom waved me off. Hold on, Ryan was just talking about his new project. My words froze midair. He finished. I tried again. Actually, Hannah interrupted. Can we talk about something worth hearing? I just landed a huge client. Mom clapped. That's my girl! Dad raised his glass. We're proud of you, sweetheart. I sat there in silence, hands trembling under the table. Even Grandpa tried to speak up. Colleen's been working on her writing, but Mom cut him off. Let's not bore everyone. Hannah chuckled. Yeah, no one cares about her little stories. That was it. The crack became a break. I set my fork down, hard. The clatter silenced them. I stood, my voice shaking but firm. You know what? I'm done being your family's punchline. They thought I'd stay quiet, but they were about to find out who I'd become. All eyes were on me. The air went heavy, thick with shock. I could feel my heart pounding against my ribs, but for the first time, I didn't shrink. You know what? I said, my voice trembling but clear. I came here tonight to share something good. I got engaged, and I landed my first real book deal. Mom blinked, unimpressed. Colleen, she sighed, stop making a scene. Her tone sliced through me like glass. You're the most useless child in this family. Always whining, never contributing anything real. Hannah smirked. No one expects anything from you, Colleen. Why would we? Their words hit like thunder. But instead of breaking, something inside me caught fire. I stood tall, chair scraping against the floor. If I'm so useless, I said, my voice steady now, then stop expecting me to run this family's life. I'm done holding everything together while you tear me apart. The room froze. Mom's face went pale. Hannah's smirk faded. Even Ryan looked stunned. Grandpa leaned forward, eyes glistening. Finally, he spoke. "You should be ashamed," he said, his voice trembling with anger. "Colleen's been the only one keeping this family together." Mom stiffened. "Don't start, Dad." "Start?" Grandpa snapped. "You two ignored her, used her, and now you insult her in front of everyone." Hannah rolled her eyes. "Oh, here we go." But I wasn't done. When Grandpa was sick, I said, my hands shaking, I turned down a major book deal to take care of him. Every appointment, every chemo session, me, not you. Mom's tone turned cold. "That's your duty as family. Don't act like a martyr." I laughed bitterly. "My duty? You mean your convenience." I turned to Hannah. "Your 30th birthday?" "I planned everything. The flowers, the catering, the venue." "You never even said thank you." She flushed red. "That's ridiculous." Dad finally spoke, his voice small. "Colleen, we didn't know." I met his eyes. "You never wanted to know." Grandpa's cane hit the floor with a thud. "She's right," he said. "You've all taken her for granted." Mom snapped. "Don't lecture me, Dad." But the damage was done. The truth hung in the air, undeniable. I felt tears in my eyes, but didn't let them fall. "I've given everything," I said softly. "My time, my peace, my love. And you still call me useless." I took a step back, my breath unsteady. "I'm done. Don't call me when something breaks. Don't text me when you need help. This time you'll figure it out without me." I grabbed my coat, ignoring their protests. As I reached the door, Grandpa's voice followed me. "You're enough, Colleen." I turned once, meeting his eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. Then I walked out into the cold night, free, furious, and finally awake. They thought they broke me that night, but they only built my beginning. Weeks turned into months. The silence from my family felt strange at first, quiet, unfamiliar, almost peaceful. Then came the calls. Texts. Apologies wrapped in guilt. Mom said I'd overreacted. Hannah said I made it about me again. I didn't answer. Because I finally understood. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry I stopped fixing it. I poured everything into my writing instead. My book, about a woman who walks away from her toxic family, sold faster than I ever imagined. The reviews called it honest, raw, liberating. For once, my voice wasn't ignored. It was heard. A year later, I stood under golden light, wearing a simple white dress. Justin smiled at me like I was his whole world. Only 2 faces filled the front row, Grandpa and Kristen. The people who showed up when no one else did. We exchanged vows surrounded by laughter, not perfection, but peace. Afterward, Grandpa took my hand. "You've built your own family," he whispered. I smiled through tears. He was right. Family isn't blood. It's who stays when everyone else leaves. That night, under the glow of fairy lights, I looked at the people around me and realized I was free. Not because they finally saw my worth, but because I stopped needing them to. If you've ever felt invisible, or had to walk away to protect your peace, know this, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if Colleen's journey touched you, hit like to show your support, and subscribe for more family stories that remind us healing is possible. Because sometimes walking away isn't losing, it's the first step to freedom.